Hi, it's Xavier, and I'd like to welcome you to my my bonsai retreat. And today, we're going to have a trouble with clouds, that's for sure, because it's in and out of rain. So I'm trying to get the angles. Yeah, so today we're definitely going to have a problem with a bit of wind and light, by the look of it. I don't know if you remember, back on the 21st of December, I put up a short about what should I do with this Corkbark elm, and there was quite a few views. I was really happy about that. But the general consensus was that we've got 1, 2, 3 branches here, and then air layer this top, so we get a new tree at the top, and then potentially, I think people talk about wiring down branches and trying to do something with the base here. Well, to be fair, events have overtaken themselves and I haven't yet had a chance to get back to this tree. But there was one comment that really took me. Paul, the tree styler, and I'm sure you've come across him in good old Australia, some cracking videos, and he's been filming stuff over several years, so you get to see his projects in several parts, but you get to see what he's done. Love his stuff. But he suggested lots of guy wires and try and pull the branches down. He reckons it'll age it 10 years. I mean, I've tried the guy wire thing. I tried some on my cheeks and my ears, and definitely I found the drooping caused by guy wire, especially on this eyebrow or whatever, drooped it. I found it added at least 10 years. So Paul, spot on with the guy wires and aging things 10 years. But seriously, the more I look at this, I'm not yet ready potentially to lose the top in my head, but the guy wires, wire generally, and bringing the branches down did get me thinking. And you know, sometimes it's another example of you see all these wonderful answers and responses, and all of them seem great, but sometimes you're just sitting there going, I don't know. And when you're like that, just do well. Jason Hanrahan shows it best in one of his recent ones on silver birches. He says if you're not sure really, do what you have to do, and then let the tree tell you, and all that happens with this, it just gets healthier. So I can always approach it next year if I'm going to air layer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wire all the main branches, and I'm going to have a little play. Once I get the wire on, I am interested, because there was someone whose username was Milky da 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 or something, and Milky suggested actually bend this branch back over on itself in time. Now, I'm not sure I can completely go that far, but he did make me think about how far can I reposition some of these branches. So I'm going to wire everything up and then have a little look and see perhaps what we can achieve with it, and I can see we're glaring out. So I'll come back to you when I've done the wire. Okay, well it's all wired up, and in a minute I'm going to start bending a few branches around and see what happens. But you know what, before we do that, I thought we'd revisit just one of the air layers, probably the one that I thought was the most successful. Yeah, so this was one of the air layers I took last year, and this is one I thought that had the most promise to it. I actually was very happy with it. Got some new growth up there. I had lots of rocks on it because it's not wired in, but it's quite solid in the pot, so I'm very happy. I've got lots of surface roots there as well, I can see. So this thing is clearly growing. All I was going to do was just do a little bit of pruning. Really, what I wanted to show you here, I won't do much more on this, is just demonstrate that suddenly we've got so much flush of growth on maples. What you do now is you look for the opportunity to just reduce the unwanted stuff. You've got a shoot coming from this junction, get rid of it. Again, it's all about cleaning up. We've now got one shoot from there. We've got a great clutter of shoots here as well, so we want to clear those off. And you can either use scissors, or you can probably just rub a lot of them off. Got a lot from that crotch there. And the reason why we take these off is not only does it clear up the actual structure a bit, It also lets light in, so we're just reducing all those to, got 2 there. On the inside we've got 1 here. I'm not going to need that. Up here, I don't know, maybe. Just see what we've got. Here is another example. Got 1, 2. Got another one up here. So lots of growth, and I've got to decide whether I want the one here. There's 2 from here. I don't want the one that's going straight towards this branch, so we'll actually get rid of the bigger of the ones and just leave that. Got 2 branches from there. Could take the thicker one or the thinner one. Same there, so we've just got 2 coming up, a few there, and I will go around and do that right across the board. So yeah, looking very, very healthy, very, very happy with it. And the chances are I may even reduce this down, because there's no tape here, and I think I said there I may actually reduce this right back down to here, but not now, and then have this concentrating, or yeah, but lots of these decisions can be made later in the year. Okay, so we get back to this, and it's all wired up. I mean, it will get repotted, and it will come up, the angle will probably straighten this a little bit more, in which case front would probably be in there because the lack of branches up here. Different potential pad levels. And there'll be a lot of cutting back to do. We may lose this lower branch, this one needs to flatten out. So I'm just going to continue to play around with the wire of this until I get into a position I like. Not a lot to say really, apart from I'll show you afterwards. It is awkward, there are several issues with different fronts. I'm actually trying to keep that relatively straight, and then that way we don't get anything either coming straight, great big bending over towards us, and a lot of the branches are set up for that then. So I'm looking the front is going to be somewhere in there perhaps. We've got this wide base there, it's the widest part coming in, and then the branches going off and then following the tree up. I've got to do a lot of thinning out, and then I can see better with some of these wiring, and I might need to do a bit more wiring on it. Or I could lose another branch here. I'm going to try and keep the whole tree and wire it into position, and I know that's not the natural way of doing it, but hey, this is what I want to do with this tree. So I'm going to think about it for a while, so I'll probably come back to you tomorrow actually, and have a good think about this. Okay, see you tomorrow. Okay, well, what may have seemed just like a second to you has actually been about 5 days to me, and this tree has really perplexed me. Very nearly didn't bother showing you any more on this. I'm going to come back to it next year. But then I thought, you know what, integrity. This is a face of integrity. You know, I'm not someone who's had training or anything like that, so I'm going to make some mistakes, and I've made a bit of a howler on this one. Obviously, it was before what seemed like seconds ago to you. I was trying to rebend the wire branches down, bring them down, look at a change in potting angle, which is what I've decided on here. I've probably canted it up about 30 degrees, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then open up the front here. I haven't decided whether this branch is going to be removed. But what I discovered very quickly when I was trying to do the bending and the wire was it was a lot more brittle than I realised. And when I say a lot more, I mean a lot more. There's been a few cracks on this, and the biggest one was actually on the main trunk, around about here. It was a real leg-breaking crack, so I had to stop. And I put some wound sealant on it, and to be fair, if I don't move it about anymore, I don't think it's bad enough that it won't heal, but it's bad enough that I certainly am not going to be trying to do any more bending. So that's as far as the bending is going to go. Looking up into it, that's where I see the front being a lovely root base there. Some of the branches actually reflect where I thought I was going to be able to get it to. Not the case, so they look a bit odd. What I am going to do now is do some basic pruning, prune it back right hard, This is a very vigorous tree, and I have no doubt it will push out loads of new growth if I ask it to. So let's get in close and get some pruning done, and then I think we're going to let it heal and sulk at the bottom of the garden somewhere. And to just give you an idea of the angle I'm looking at, you can see that's a good 30 degrees on there. Hopefully that'll work out all right, but I'm definitely intent on keeping all the branches for now. Okay, so if this is the angle, then we want to take off anything that's going upwards. As I say, this is quite a brittle, so I'm not going to be doing any branch wiring. It's quite thin branching, so I just want to try and create the thin pad layers straight away. Cut back to, well, the usual cutting rules that apply when we deal. I'm going to take it right back. Some of these have come out far too far, and just so you're aware, there's an example of this bit here was as long as this branch here. Now if I'm going to make that the actual apex or the center of the longest branch, then everything around it has to be shorter. So the bit of growth that was there was right out here. I've taken it back 2-3 centimeters. There's little bud points here, and that's where I want the new buds to start from here. So I'm actually taking off a lot, and I'll continue to do that on all this pad. So example here, take it right back. So we've brought that right back, that's in there, got a lower branch there, so if we look at that from a perspective, certainly a much better looking pad. We've got this big gangly thing up here. Cut that right back. We've got branches back here, which really are too long. I want those little buds to come out. Okay, so we've got a pad there, and then I'll continue to shorten and so we've brought this pad on this side down, this one's down. Now we need to look at this one. Again, this is coming right across, and I'm looking for 2s and 3s and anything that really isn't going where I want. Probably first of all shorten it a little bit and to see what happens. As I say, I'm very confident of how these bud back. I've got branches under there which I like, but I don't want it coming too far across. This one going in there, and I need this to be a lot denser. And any way you do that, just cut right back and make the tree work for you. We've got this one coming back on itself, we won't want that. So that's opening out the centre there. We can look into here, and this is going to grow into this area here, but we definitely don't want it there. Take that one off. I mean, looking down, we've got a whole mess of stuff in here. Lots of branches crisscrossing. We've got this one here, which we really want to remove. 1, 2, that's... I actually want the buds to be further back, so I actually want some buds to come from there. This is coming out a long way, so we'll cut that there. Cut that right back. All of these are quite a long way out, to be fair. And so we're bringing everything back in. If I can get green on the end I will, but otherwise I will still come back even further. You can see it's got it growing in and around that way, which definitely isn't ideal. I probably want bud points from there. And the only way I'm going to get that is to ignore what was on there before. I've got this one here coming up, that's no good. Get rid of that. So we can see we've got a double double trunk almost there. That one's going to be crossing over. So I've got to decide, do I want this higher one here, which has got this branch on it? Do I look at what's underneath? No, because that one was crossing this main one here. Basically, I'm telling the tree I want you to regrow everything. The only way to do that is to cut off loads of growth. So now when you look here, we've definitely thinned this all the way out, and I'm going to be getting hopefully back budding from here. Then the same with this branch here. Just need to continue to look at it. Lots of extra long growth that we just don't want. I need that growth to be coming in a lot closer. And yes, I'm going to be cutting some of these leaves in half, but not worried. Okay, so we've brought the pad back a little bit there. I could end up going a lot further back on this as well, and I'm going to continue my way up the tree doing just that and bringing the growth right in. But I'm sure you don't want to see me doing that, do you? Okay, I've managed to get it to a turntable. I've taken off a lot of the foliage here. Compared to what you see above to what's below now, there seems hardly anything on it. Which tells me also, if this is going to be the front in here somewhere, this has got to come back an awfully long way. So we'll start working on this next. And I will be taking off a lot of foliage, so stand by. Basically, I've got to try and find points where I can naturally bring it in. I just want to make it easier to actually develop some decent pads, which aren't congested. Which with Corkbark Elm, this tends to happen very easily. I've got a junction there that's actually got 1, 2 there. There's one crossing. I've almost got to decide whether to take off. I'm not going to wire. It makes it easier in some ways because I know what to remove. If it's not pointed in the right direction, it's no good. That one under here is crossing the whole lot. So we'll get rid of it. As you see, I really am going back to the newest, freshest growth. If you look here, we've got this great big one here. Lovely, but bear in mind where I'm coming back to. I've also got a little small one just here, so we're going to cut to it. I'm going to go all the way back, same here. We've got all this growth here, but newer stuff are much closer in. I'm going to go back to it. This one back here, we haven't got the same option. I mean, I'm going to struggle because of the length of this branch. I am going to struggle to be able to bring it right in close on this go, but I may well over subsequent pruning decisions. Yeah, it's growing upward. Beneath it is a nice flat one, so I'll keep the flat one. Now spinning around what we can see, obviously we've got this lower branches here, a little one here I'm not sure what's going to happen with. This one has been brought all the way back. I've taken loads of growth off the ends of that. Thinned out, so I've just got horizontal stuff. And if you look at it from if the front's in there somewhere, at least it's not all the way back, but it's parallel. So I can let this run out a bit more and try and get what I want. But you can see a lot cleaner. Again, I've done here, and even here there's something I didn't do which could be done. This pad's nicely. In fact, again, we've got opportunities to reduce. Wherever I've got the opportunity to bring it back, I'm taking it. And then again, just look to where we've got growth coming and reduced it back. So that's those lower branches pretty well done. We're going to start moving up here next, and I'll come back to you when I've done it, and it's going to be a very, very naked baby, I think, by the end of this, so to speak. There. But now we've got to look at this here. I've brought this all the way back. I now need to look at this great hunk here. Again, I'm going to go, if you look at here, there's a great big thick load. What I need to do is find somewhere back here where we've got lots of little growth. And I think I've found it. There we go. And here, back to little shoots there. And very easily, I've now brought it right back. I mean, this branch here is very, very two-dimensional right now. We've literally got one level layer, but I want to develop that pad out as I go along. Slow, and as I say, Chinese elm or Corkbark elm, all these small leaf Zelkova, when you get into this stage, can be quite sort of nitpicky work. So I'll probably come back when I've got it done, to be fair. Well, I think you'll see we've taken quite a lot off now at the apex. Brought the tree right in, less bush. All we've got to decide now is, you know, the options are that could have been the apex, but I think I'm looking at just thinning this down. So really, it's just deciding now how much of that I want to take off, or whether I want this to be the high point. And I can see an option straight away. I sort of think it leans off, so we may well want this coming up to be the apex, which means we really want to take off. There we go, big cut. That. In truth, that's already going to be coming out too far now anyway. I'll leave that for now. So there's a little bit of green there, but there's a great big ugly bit here. As for this one, probably it's got to come all the way back to that one there. It's really coming straight towards us a little bit, so I'm not that happy with it. But for now, I've taken off quite a bit from the apical point of view. Well, that was a bit of an ordeal, to be honest, and I'm happy that I've stuck at it, because halfway through that, and I think you probably sensed it when you saw me at the beginning of this section of the video, I was actually I was probably at my lowest. I really thought I'd mucked up badly, and you know, I think this is what happens when you don't sit down and really think about what you want from the tree and what the tree can give you. And I got a little bit caught up in the idea of bending branches, and I got lost before I started, and I think that's a big lesson I've learned, and I still learn it, and I think I'll make that mistake again in the future. It's not just about YouTube or anything like that, but I think those that can sketch and draw, they're pretty good. I like that, because obviously they've got the mind that can sketch where they want to go. Bit like me, bit like my scripts or anything like that, it really comes off the tongue, literally. There's no sort of filter between the brain and the mouth. And the same thing happens between my brain and my fingers, and I'm doing and acting before I've sometimes thought about what the end could be. But this is where we are. I'm not unhappy, and because I know how this reacts, I'm happy that it's going to continue to grow. So lovely root base. I'll zoom in on that root base in a minute, but stacks of foliage come on. If we show you what the picture was the before, there's clearly a big difference. But I like that I can see how this twin crown is. I'm quite liking the distribution of pads. I like the fact that I've kept it high. Part of me didn't want to break it in half, so to speak, although I've had a pretty good crack at it. No, not perfect at all, and but I can, do you know what, it looks, when it gets potted on that angle, I think it's going to be a lot more appealing. This branch here, you know, I may well decide that's coming out too far, reduce it back to say here, and then regrow from this upper bit here, so take off that whole part there. That may well do, or I may actually keep that extending growth there. At least, again, took a bit more of an effort. It has a defined plan, it has a direction, a way to go, and you may not all like that, but that's okay. All I ask, if you don't like it, please try and avoid using the 4-letter words of appreciation. YouTube doesn't like them, to be fair. I don't find them particularly constructive. But hey, we can't all like everything. I'm very much happier than how that is now than how it was at the beginning. And to be fair, even when you look at it like that, with a little bit of wiring and pruning that's been done, it's actually not that bad. Quite glad I took it off the rock actually, who knows. I may look at it next spring and decide I won't repot the angle, I'll just, yeah, I could actually prune those off. Let that one up there grow, so it brings it in. It's interesting actually. It just, I think because I've managed to bend it upwards, it doesn't feel like it's fallen over quite so much, so actually it could still work at that angle. Not so much that. I don't know, you tell me. What's your view on that? Do you think that's a possibility? Let me know in the comments. As I say, I quite like the way that Nabari is, and what will be interesting to see is, if I don't keep it on the horizontal, is what it's going to be like under there when I dig away some of that root. I imagine, oops, nearly had a disaster then. I imagine that we should be able to get away with that actually. Yeah, nice Nabari there. Nabari, nice roots. It's only another word for roots. So I think that's it for today. It's worked out. I think it's worked out alright. Please let me down in your comments anything constructive about whether you think the horizontal position or whether you think I should go ahead with what I'm going to do here. Remember, Corkbark Elm, they really do like to throw out new growth. If I really wanted to, I could cut this all right back and regrow all the branches. Now, I'm not going to do that, so I'm very, very confident that I can quickly fill in spaces that at the moment look a little bit void. I know a space that's void, and I'm sure someone's going to remind you about it in a second. Yeah, so from Xavier, in his bonsai retreat, if you enjoyed this, if only to see me struggle and make a hash of things, let me know. If you want to see more on this tree, it's going to be in the Chinese elm playlist. Otherwise, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.